Remember when we were little kids playing in the backyard in the grass, hysterically laughing at all the weird little bugs we'd find back there? Maybe we'd scream and cry, ew, because we found one that was super gross. Well, back then, I was fascinated by the world that existed within the grass and the multitude of activities that was occurring in that backyard. The ants, for example, were extraordinarily organized, efficient, and strong. They could create a living bridge with their own bodies to carry a morsel of food 100 times their size over that bridge and back to headquarters by using teamwork. This memory of ants has stuck with me as I grew older, and sometimes I would find myself pondering how remarkable it was that there was never any discussion between the ants on how to complete this task. They didn't have a management meeting or a list of deliverables to check off, yet they each seemed to inherently know their role in the task and how to complete it flawlessly. It's observations like these in nature that have always made me feel that nature is purposeful. Just like how each individual ant has a purpose that contributes to them accomplishing impactful things in their own worlds. Today, as an adult, I've learned that a lot of nature operates on the Earth's electromagnetic fields. This is what tells the birds to fly south for the winter. It's also what draws bees towards pollen-filled flowers. It's almost as if all of nature is operating on some sort of species-specific Wi-Fi signal, connecting each of them to their own purpose. Well, if this is true, if all of nature is hooked up to a signal that's driving their purpose and maximizing their impact, then how can we, as human beings, reset our connection to that Wi-Fi signal and get connected to our purpose? Because we're getting a spotty connection at best. Let's be honest. If the human race was getting a clear and strong connection to our purpose, we probably wouldn't see things like the employee burnout rates across the globe, or the mental health crisis that's just accelerating worldwide. And don't even get me started on how unsustainable our food systems are becoming. So before I share with you the impact formula that can help us all get connected to purpose, you might be wondering yourself, well, what would that be like for me as a human being to be connected to a purpose that nature intended for me? How would that benefit me? Well, for one, it would give you a sense of direction, just like the birds that fly south for the winter. The birds don't get stuck in analysis paralysis. They're not calculating exactly how many days they have to stay down in Florida to claim domicile and avoid New York taxes. No, the birds don't assess all the routes on Google Maps to figure out how to save 15 minutes in traffic. Of course not. The birds just follow their intuition. They get up and they fly in perfect formation, mind you, and they get exactly where they're meant to be. Imagine if you could have that sense of direction in your life, like an inner compass, the next time you have a big decision to make or need to figure out where to go or what to do next. Another thing that connection to purpose does is it aligns your own self-serving interests and actions with that of the greater good. What does that mean? Let's take the bees, for example. The bees' sole purpose in life is to gather food for themselves and take it back to the hive to share with their community. So the bees spend their entire day going from flower to flower, collecting nectar and pollen, because that's their food. It's a completely self-interested action every single day. But what the bees don't seem to realize is that as they're going from flower to flower, collecting their food in complete self-serving interests, they are also cross-pollinating all of the plant life on this planet so that vegetation can grow all over Earth. So we are all benefiting from the bee's self-serving acts. Here's a little hint for you. If you're playing a zero-sum game with your business or any other facet in your life where your actions are at the detriment or disadvantage to everyone else around you, well, you're not connected to your purpose, because being connected to purpose aligns your self-serving interests and actions with that of the greater good, just like the bees. And the most exciting thing about connecting to your purpose, particularly for the leaders, the change makers, the influencers of our world, is that a clear, strong connection to your true purpose maximizes your impact. Just like those ants we were watching when we were kids in the backyard, the ants are always performing at the top of their game. They are always reaching their highest potential, so that as an individual or as a team, they're accomplishing astounding things in this world. It would be pretty cool to operate like this, right? But unfortunately, because that pesky Wi-Fi signal we're getting as a human race, we need a little help getting connected to our purpose. I've created this infographic to help demonstrate the relationship between impact and purpose. These arrows pointing outwards are the impact you can have on the world externally. And at the base of these arrows, the core center point of this graphic, that is the force, the fuel, that is the power behind the punch of your impact. And the thing about identifying, clarifying, strengthening your connection to that true purpose so that you can actually utilize that fuel source behind your impact is that you must follow this long, winding path inwards. It's the path of introspection. And the deeper you go down that path, the stronger your connection to purpose becomes, and the more fuel you have behind the power of your impact. Because impact and introspection are a symbiotic relationship. If you want to maximize the impact you'll have on the world externally, you must optimize the states that exist internally. And it's this introspective path that the impact formula is all about. And here it is. Maximum impact equals mind plus body plus energy optimization. Master the mind, balance the body, and plug into energy. And this is what puts you on that introspective path to identify, clarify, and strengthen your connection to your true purpose and fuels your impact. I'm going to take you through a couple very quick examples of concepts, tips, and practices that you can try out for each of these three elements in this impact formula, just so you can get started using the formula. Starting with master the mind. Fortunately, these days, there's a lot of great resources out there for mindset mastery. So alongside things like the mindfulness practices or the breathwork techniques, or maybe the gratitude journaling that you might be experimenting with, it's also really important that we familiarize ourselves with two very key concepts so that we can foster an awareness of what's occurring within the mind while we're doing these practices. The first key concept is get to know your unconscious. The states and levels of consciousness are a very complex topic. I'm not going to give you a psychology lesson right now, but what I will summarize for you is that while the conscious mind is aware of the tiniest sliver of your thoughts, feelings, and behavioral patterns, it's actually the unconscious mind, the part of your mind that you are completely unaware of, that is the control panel running all of your automatic responses, reactions, decisions, and compulsions. According to Freudian psychologists, it is the unconscious mind that is the source of all human behavior. So it's probably worth getting to know what's going on in yours, right? And the more that you learn about how the states of consciousness and mindset coexist, the better chance you'll have at mastering them. The second key concept for mastering the mind is get meta, metacognition, which is basically thinking about what you're thinking about. And one of the best ways to do that is to foster an awareness of your thoughts. particularly the ones that you would like to change or are not serving you. So for example, the next time you have a negative thought, a criticism, a judgment, a generalization, whether it's about other people or about yourself, try to take a step back and think to yourself, well, why did I have that thought? And more importantly, get curious about where could it have originated from? And sparking that curiosity of your thoughts eventually fosters an awareness of them and hopefully a detachment from them, which is essentially the goal. So those are two very key concepts that you can try out that are very important to dig into while doing the gratitude journaling, the breath work, and the mindfulness for a more mastered mind. The second element in the impact formula is balance the body. And everyone, as soon as I said it, is probably thinking diet and exercise, right? And of course, diet and exercise are extremely important for a balanced body. You want a great relationship with food and a great relationship with movement. But equally as important as those things are, is to learn to process your emotions. And I have two very simple practices that anyone can try to help process their emotions for a more balanced body. The first one is to cry. I know it sounds a little crazy, but I think a lot of us need to cry more. We are all brought into this world as babies that are expected and accepted for crying. Every time anything upset us or disturbed us, or we saw that gross bug in the grass, we would scream and we would cry, and it was perfectly fine. But somewhere along the line, and I think this is particularly true for boys, unfortunately, somewhere along the line, we start telling ourselves, well, it's no longer okay to cry anymore. And we need to start suppressing and repressing those emotions. And that accumulates emotional baggage. And that's not good for anything. So the next time you're sitting in a board meeting and things aren't going your way, I get it. You don't want to just like start crying then, right? But what I'd like to encourage all of you to do is the next time something really upsets you, things aren't going your way, you get really angry, schedule time and space for yourself. Put it in your calendar, a time and a place where you can just ugly cry it out. Scream into a pillow, moan, groan, move your body, but do what you need to do to process that emotion so you don't accumulate that emotional baggage. And as soon as you're done ugly crying, it's really important that we balance that out with the other side of the spectrum and that we play. Because our original nature as children was playful. We used to play in our imaginations or just in the yard with sticks and bugs, and it was easy and fun, and we can get back there. So just as you would schedule time and space for yourself to cry, schedule time and space in your calendar to skip, jump, sing, dance, and most importantly, to laugh. And laugh in a way that's deep and genuine, like when we were playing when we were kids, that did not rely on our favorite cocktail to get there. I know it's gonna be a challenge for some of us. So those are two very simple practices we can all try to help process our emotions for a more balanced body. The last element in the impact formula is plug into energy. And energy is really the source of your intuition. It's the source of your inspiration. These are naturally occurring energies that are accessible to anyone. So one of the best ways to tap into these are to immerse yourself in nature. So get out for a walk or a hike. Just go jump in some salt water, breathe some fresh air, get some sun on your skin. But I understand these things might be a challenge for those of us living in places like New York City, for example. So if you can't get out to a park every day, if you can't fill your workspace or your apartment with potted plants, it's important to realize that any respect to nature can also help you plug into these energies. So supporting eco-conscious, sustainable, and conscious businesses, for example, are a great way to connect to these energies. Some of my favorites are regenerative farms or one of those subscription boxes that deliver the organic ugly produce to your door. Those are great because they're really solving the food waste problem by plugging it into the food deserts problem. You can even learn to compost in places like New York City. A lot of people don't know this, but you just save your food scraps in a bag in the freezer. And when it starts getting full, you can drop it off to one of the city's pickup locations, and they literally take your food scraps and turn it into soil to be used. How cool is that? So any sort of support of these sorts of businesses and organizations that understand and are a respect to nature can also help you plug into these energies. And the last practice I want to share with you is a really special one because it optimizes all three elements in this impact formula. And that is meditation. Meditation really is the most accessible, affordable, and effective practice there is to master the mind, balance the body, and plug into energy. And there are so many great styles and techniques and programs available for meditation these days. It's just about trying them out and figuring out which one works best for you, and then making that a part of your regular routine, because it's a 3-in-1 deal for the impact formula. It's basically a requirement. And there you have it. That is the impact formula that connects you to your true purpose. And whether or not this formula is going to reset a Wi-Fi signal in your brain or hook you up to an electromagnetic field around the earth, perhaps one day I'll be able to credibly tell you. But what I do know is that this impact formula, mastering the mind, balancing the body, plugging into energy, this is what puts you on the introspective path to identify, clarify, and strengthen your connection to your true purpose, the one that nature intended for you. We are all forces of nature. You are a force of nature. And when nature acts, it acts with purpose. So let's get connected to it. Thank you so much.